Apparently, Senator John Fetterman makes blockbuster statement. This will change everything, but what did he say? Or better yet, what did he do? Maybe it's his actions that are speaking louder than his words. I would like to quickly say thank you to Chapter for sponsoring this video. My partners are absolutely amazing. For free Medicare help, make sure you guys give them a call. The phone number is in the pinned comment and in the description. But let's jump into John Fetterman and what is going on with the senator from Pennsylvania. You guys may have already seen this. There's a lot of headlines out right now regarding John Fetterman. Let's just go over a couple of the top headlines right now. And then I'm going to show you the disturbing video that is circulating social media that is making everybody question John Fetterman's mental status, mental ability, mental decline, possibly. These are the top headlines right now. Number one from the Daily Beast, it says John Fetterman's plane meltdown resurfaces amid bombshell report, which is what we're going to watch in just a second. Then we have from the New Republic, John Fetterman seems like a risk to himself and everyone around him. You have the New York Times saying former Fetterman aide expressed concern to doctor about senator's mental health. Then from Newsweek, you have video of John Fetterman arguing about plane seatbelt takes off online. Again, we're going to watch that in just 1 second. And then from Bulwark, it says people are real. Doesn't say John Fetterman, but it has a picture of him next to it. Now, I just want you guys to see this video of the plane incident that everybody is discussing right now because it is a very big deal. Let me find it real quick. Now, we're not going to watch the entire thing. It's a little bit long, but I want you guys to visually notice that this is the back of the bald head of John Fetterman on this aisle seat on this airplane. And I want you to hear, as well as you can, exactly what is going on. Listen to this. I don't know if you'll...
Okay, it needs to be visible for the crew at all times. That's not an us thing, that's a federal regulation. So, it's okay. It's okay. Okay, it's okay, but it just has to be visible to the crew at all times. It's a federal regulation, so if your seatbelt's on, it just has to be visible. And right now, it's not visible.
Kind of hard to hear, I know, but the airline attendant is telling him.
If you like that, it'll make it bigger so it can go outside of your sweatshirt.
Hold on.
Would that work? So if you want to go to Pittsburgh, it's simple. You have to follow our instructions where you're going to ask to get off here. We're not asking much. Let it happen. Like all that we need is to be able to see your seatbelt at all times. I'm not sure what you're doing.
Okay, so the gist of it, I know it's hard to hear, and since I don't edit, unfortunately, but what is going on here is that the airline associate is asking Senator John Fetterman here, again from Pennsylvania, to make sure that his seatbelt is visible. It is a federal law or federal rule that your seatbelt must be visible to the airline attendants anytime they are walking by or want to check. Now, obviously, if you're sleeping and have a blanket, I feel like that's a little bit different. We see people do it all the time, but they are here trying to take off and everything else, and they have to make sure that his seatbelt is visible. And Fetterman here is saying, oh, I fly all the time, it's not a big deal. And so then the airline people are like, well, do you want us to bring you a seatbelt extender? Because I mean, John Fetterman, he's a big dude. He's tall, he's wide, he's a big dude, right? And so they're like, do you want me to bring you a seatbelt extender? Would that help? Because it needs to be visible on the outside of your sweatshirt. And Fetterman is saying, you know, that he has it on, it's under his sweatshirt, but he's not showing them the seatbelt. Then he's arguing about why does he have to wear a seatbelt? And it became this whole to-do. And my question has always been, does he not know who he is? Once you are a household name, or you have a position where people are going to recognize you, I mean, just visually know that you are somebody, even if they can't think of who you are. With today's tendency for people to just pull out their cell phones and start recording every little thing so they can throw it up on social media in hopes of going viral. As somebody of John Fetterman's stature, meaning the senator, a senator in Pennsylvania, and then also, I mean, he's clearly who he is, I probably would not sit there and push buttons and argue with the airline people, but that's just me. I'm going to give you guys kind of a better breakdown of what's going on with John Fetterman right now. I know a lot of people started talking about him during the whole election process and the swearing in of President Donald Trump due to Fetterman showing up in like basketball shorts and a sweatshirt when everybody else is rocking suits and ties and dresses. well, ladies in dresses, couple men in dresses, but they didn't go to President Trump's. Anyway, that's not the point. Let's continue on here. I have a bunch of notes for you guys. So Senator John Fetterman, he is the Democrat from Pennsylvania, has been in the news recently due to this viral video that I just showed you. That's from earlier this year, 2025. It's not old. It is from this year, but it shows him arguing with a pilot on a flight from Washington, D.C., trying to get back home to Pittsburgh. The dispute was over Fetterman's refusal to wear his seatbelt in a way that was visible to the flight crew, which is a Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, regulation. In the video, which I just showed you guys, you can see the pilot calmly explains. Now, the pilot was very calm. It could have escalated numerous different ways given how Fetterman was going to respond to the pilot. They both kept their voices low, which was nice. I will say at least there's that. But the pilot calmly explains that the seatbelt must be visible at all times, and he offered Fetterman a seatbelt extender for comfort. And then, of course, it seemed that Fetterman objects, right? Though his words weren't fully clear. I couldn't really hear it very well, and I know y'all couldn't either. The pilot firmly states that Fetterman must follow the rules or risk being removed from the plane, and this incident resurfaced online after a bombshell report raised questions and concerns about Fetterman's mental health, sparking widespread discussion. So that video was probably tamped down a little bit by the news media because he is a Democrat, and right now the news is all about crapping on Republicans and hoisting Democrats up. We know this. It's not like that's not obvious anytime you turn on the news, whether it's CNN, MSNBC, blah, 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 The View especially. But they tamped the video down and it wasn't really widely circulated. But there's been more concern over Fetterman's mental health after the last couple months. And so now that video is making its way along the rounds online to kind of give more context to why people are having this conversation about Senator Fetterman's mental health to begin with. So he suffered a stroke in May of 2022. I think we've talked about this numerous times over the last couple of years, especially when it pertained to the Norfolk Southern train derailment in East Palestine, Ohio, because it did happen less than, I believe, 12 miles from the Pennsylvania border. And so John Fetterman was, I believe, in a hospital at the time that this happened, and he was missing for a while. So there was a lot of back and forth between Governor Mike DeWine in Ohio and then trying to figure out what was going on with Pennsylvania because of the smoke cloud and all the chemicals that were leaching into the air, the soil, the water that could have spread into Pennsylvania, all these different things, right? So we've talked about John Fetterman numerous times, but it says here, the stroke caused auditory processing issues and speech difficulties, which were noticeable during his campaign, but did not prevent him from defeating Republican Mehmet Oz in the 2022 election, which now Oz is, anyway. Since then, his health has remained a focal point. In February 2023, Fetterman was hospitalized at Walter Reed Medical Center for clinical depression, staying for 6 weeks. And again, February 7th, was the Norfolk Southern train derailment in East Palestine, Ohio. I feel like it was February 7th. Please forgive me if I am wrong. There's a lot of dates that are stuck up in here from everything we've talked about over the last couple of years. But either way, he was hospitalized at Walter Reed Medical Center for clinical depression. He stayed there for 6 weeks. Doctors developed a recovery plan that included medication and regular checkups. But now they're saying that former and current staffers are claiming that Fetterman has not consistently followed this plan. He hasn't stayed on his medication the way he's supposed to, hasn't gone to get his regular checkups like he's supposed to. And then a recent New York Magazine expose published in May of 2025, which is why Fetterman is all up in the news right now, detailed alarming concerns from Fetterman's former chief of staff, Adam Gentleson, and other aides. Gentleson wrote a 1,600-word letter to a Walter Reed doctor in May of last year, 2024, warning that Fetterman's behavior was becoming erratic and potentially life-threatening. Staffers described mood swings, I can't remember, y'all me with big words, conspiratorial thinking, and megalomania, with Fetterman allegedly claiming to be the most knowledgeable person on issues like the Gaza conflict without reading briefings. So basically he says he knows everything, didn't need to read any briefings, just already knows everything that's going on, right? There were also reports of dangerous behavior, such as walking into traffic, nearly hitting pedestrians, and driving recklessly, raising fears among aides that he could harm himself or others. Fetterman insists he is in good health and attributes these reports to disgruntled former staffers, But the concerns have obviously fueled public debate about his fitness to serve. It's not even just the fact that, I mean, you have to take into consideration all this mental health issues that he's having and these physical issues that he's having. It's not just, he's some random guy. He is in a position of power. And if he's having severe issues like this, where he is, not taking his medication the way he's supposed to, not having his checkups, driving erratically, speaking crazily, and maybe not paying attention to his briefings, the things that are going on, and making decisions based off of lack of knowledge, that could be detrimental for the people of Pennsylvania and then our whole country when it comes to him voting along the lines of things that will affect our country, right? And we'll get to that in just a second. Please understand. So this is the interesting part, because his relationship with his wife and the Gaza controversy is kind of a big deal for a lot of people. He's got strong support for Israel's military campaign in Gaza, and it's caused a lot of tension with his wife, Giselle Barreto Fetterman. This is according again to the New York Magazine report. Giselle, who came to the U.S. as an undocumented immigrant, reportedly pleaded with Fetterman to soften his stance on Gaza, especially early in the conflict, saying, and this is the quote, "They are bombing refugee camps. How can you support this?" Fetterman's comments, including an alleged statement to a progressive Jewish group called J Street that Palestinians are like sour milk and should be killed, have drawn sharp criticism from progressives and reportedly strained his marriage. Fetterman downplayed these disagreements, calling them very common in political marriage and noting that Giselle has her own voice. However, the report suggests their arguments over Gaza and other issues, including a meeting with Donald Trump that Giselle was reluctant to attend, have been frequent and heated. So marriage on the rocks. It is very hard. We've talked about this numerous times. If you are with your spouse and you either haven't had the conversation before you got married, or for some reason your thoughts on things have changed throughout your marriage and now you're on different sides of the spectrum, spectrum sounds wrong, aisle, when it comes to politics or even things outside of politics. If you and your spouse don't agree and aren't more of a united front, it makes it very, very hard on a marriage. And heaven forbid you have kids, because it makes it hard for the kids to watch the parents, argue about very important things, like what's going on with Gaza, Palestinians, Israel, things like that, right? So then we have here that Fetterman's pro-Israel stance has alienated many of his former progressive supporters. He has called for the destruction of Iran's nuclear facilities and dismissed ceasefire calls in Gaza, which has led to accusations of endorsing genocide from some critics on social media platforms like X. His comments and social media activity have alarmed constituents and staff, with some linking his hardline views to a possible decline in mental health following his stroke. Now, we do know that strokes, heart attacks, anything along those lines, they do have a tendency over time to alter the way people think and feel. And maybe it is a chemical imbalance. Maybe it is because of the stroke, or maybe it's because he looks at things differently because, he saw his life flash before his eyes, all these different things. But the fact of the matter is that since his stroke in 2022, a lot of people that are close to him and people of his state are saying that he is not the same man he was before the stroke. Now, you have Fox News extensively has covered Fetterman's recent controversies, framing him as a Democrat who is breaking ranks with his party's progressive wing. Commentators like Jesse Walters, I know a lot of you watch Jesse Walters, he's highlighted Fetterman's criticism of Democratic behavior, such as their protest during Donald Trump's joint address to Congress in March of 2025, and his support for some Republican policies, like backing certain Trump cabinet nominees. We've talked about that as well, when John Fetterman came out and gave his, I believe it was for RFK Jr., and maybe it was Tulsi Gabbard. I'm not 100% sure if it was both of them or just one of them, but that John Fetterman gave his support to and voted yes for. I don't have that in my notes. Anyway, let's continue on. Waters and other Fox News contributors such as Joey Jones and Mary Catherine Ham have praised Fetterman as a voice of common sense within the Democratic Party, suggesting he is being unfairly targeted by his party for not adhering to its party line. We know how that works. When you have a Republican who seems to be more on the Democratic thinking side, we're going to call him a rhino, Republican in name only. Democrats obviously don't want their people to side more with Republican Party. I'm sure they've got a name for them too. They argue that Democrats are turning turning on Fetterman because his maverick persona and willingness to work across the aisle, such as joining Republican Senator Dave McCormick for a book tour event, threatened the party's narrative of unity against Republicans, which in and of itself, to me, is absolutely shitty. That the Democrat Party's thing is unity against Republicans. Whereas Republicans are like, hey, Democrats, if we could find a way to work together, this country could be great again much quicker. But Democrats are going, no, F that. We're going to stomp on this country because we want to make sure that we are as far opposite of Republicans as possible. Anyway, that's not the point here. Let's continue on. Where's my notes? I've lost my notes. Here, okay. However, Fetterman's voting records shows he often aligns with Democrats on key issues such as voting to block a bill barring transgender athletes from women's sports, which undercuts the rebel narrative that was pushed by Fox News, saying he was a Democrat rebel who was siding more with Republicans. The fact that he voted to keep boys playing dress up in girls' sports, that kind of, makes him shitty, number one, but also proves that he is more Democrat than independent or Republican. Now, some Democrats, including former primary rival Connor Lamb, they've criticized Fetterman for being absent from public events in Pennsylvania and for his rightward shift, particularly on Gaza. The New York Magazine report and subsequent media coverage have led to quick shock among some Democrats, with a few even suggesting Fetterman should resign due to his health and erratic behavior. And then there's obviously posts on X and other social media platforms that reflect that divide, with some users accusing Democrats of attacking Fetterman for his Israel support, while others express concern about his health and behavior. Generally speaking, it feels like most people are on his side are attacking him because he's not agreeing with everything that they agree with, not even because of his mental health. Whereas I feel like more people on the Republican side, independent side, and maybe his constituents, it's more about his mental health, less about which way he votes on things right now. But the mental health decline is something that you have got to get in front of before it is completely gone. It is something you have to keep an eye on and you have to pay attention to. And if Fetterman is running around like, chicken with head cut off, or a fox in the hen house, or I don't even know what phrase we want to use here. I don't know which one works best with this situation. Or head in the sand. Maybe that's it. Because he's not, it seems like, based off of what we've seen, how he's behaved, how he's dressing in certain situations and whatnot, it seems like he is refusing to acknowledge the fact that maybe he is having a mental decline since that stroke in 2022. The fact that he had to be checked in to the clinic, what do we say, Mayo Clinic? Now I don't remember, for 6 weeks for clinical depression, that is a sign in and of itself that maybe he needs to have a little more support around him that are more aggressive in the way that they keep him on track with the things he's supposed to be doing medication wise and clinical checkups and things like that. So basically, the airplane argument over the seatbelt, it pretty much brought a renewed attention to his post-stroke health struggles, with aides and former staff raising serious concerns about his mental health, the erratic behavior, failure to follow his own recovery plan, his support of Israel's actions in Gaza, obviously strained his relationship with his wife, and alienated progressive Democrats, basically leading to heated debates online and in the media. Fox News' Jesse Walters portraying Fetterman as a common sense Democrat, now facing backlash from his party for diverging from its narrative, though his voting record obviously suggests he still aligns with Democrats on the issues that most Republicans find of utmost importance, meaning allowing these boys with these mental issues to dress up as girls, to invade girls' spaces, to take away the safety of girls' locations. Like, it's not okay. But at the end of the day, the combination of all of this, his health concerns, his erratic behavior, the fact he's not doing the things he's supposed to do, it's going to have a big issue or a big decision in what happens moving forward with his political career, I'm sure. I don't have anyone in my life who is going through or has gone through those types of issues, no strokes, no clinical depression, things like that. So I know from my perspective, I can look at it from the outside looking in and go, oh, clearly he needs help. Clearly he needs to do something more. Clearly it's not enough, blah, 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 blah. But I've also never been in that situation. And if I was, maybe I would look at it differently and think of it more of a, no, he's fine. I think people make excuses a lot of the times for people when they're going through certain issues, because it's easier to make that excuse than it is to face what the issue may be. So I'm hoping for John Fetterman's sake, that he and his wife can, you know, I don't want to say reconcile, because I don't know for a fact that they are apart or whatever, but arguing with your spouse is never great for your mental health to begin with. And I feel like everything starts at home. If your home life is slowly deteriorating, it's going to affect everything else outside of your home. So hopefully he and his wife can find a way to become that united front that a marriage is supposed to be. And that could, in theory, help him with whatever other issues he's going through right now that are causing him to act out and act erratic and whatever else. So whether you like John Fetterman or not, you know, Democrat, Republican, Independent, whatever he is still a human being. And at the end of the day, you don't want any human beings to suffer. So hopefully he gets the help that he needs, quits stalling airplanes by arguing with captains over seatbelts, and maybe they take away his driver's license, make him walk everywhere. Maybe he gets a personal person, that picks out his wardrobe every day and says, you know, let's throw out the sweatshirts and the basketball shorts, put on a suit again. And, you know, you have to dress the part at the same time. It is hard for you to mentally think of yourself in this important role as a senator in Pennsylvania when you're dressing like some dude who's waiting to jump into a pickup game of basketball in the neighborhood park. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of things that need to happen for John Fetterman to really get back on solid ground. And hopefully he has enough people that care enough in his corner to make sure that happens. SquirrelTribe, thank you for having this Fetterman conversation with me. I love y'all immensely, and I hope you have a fabulous rest of your day. Goodbye.